Hello, everyone, and welcome to our um, pre-meditation talk for our weekly Catalyst meditation. This is our Thursday larger format meditation. And there's a topic, generally a topic that I talk to, and I'll do that for the next 25 minutes. And then we'll do our Catalyst meditation, and then we have an open discussion of what's going on. Um, And today's meditation talk is kind of near and kind of dear to my heart because um, I've been talking about our latent powers for a number of years, and I've been part of our ongoing experience of the Catalyst meditation is that our latent powers have been um, um, activating, or at least we are being more conscious and aware of them as we talk about them with each other. And so my first question is, where is that going? And the second question is, where do we want it to go? That's going to cover 25 minutes. But the first thing that covers the 25 minutes is what the heck am I talking about regarding latent powers? What is a latent power? Um, this is something that I have been um, working on the periphery of for decades. And my trigger for this is the Great Pyramid. Um, I actually saw the Great Pyramid with my own eyes around 2012. And I'm going to strongly recommend everybody who's listening to my voice to see the Great Pyramid. Um, all the stories you've been taught about how the pyramid was constructed become um, meaningless when you see it. It's so big, you can't get your mind around it, or you can get your mind around it. That's the only way, the only force. None of the forces or none of the techniques and none of the engineering that we know can build a great pyramid. Period. That's it. Um, um, and the story about a particular pharaoh of a particular age deciding he was going to build his uh, final resting place above ground, which they never, ever, ever do. um, and um, his decision to build this building above ground, and in the meantime, just decided to build the most massive building in human history, and is still the most massive building in human experience, and then stopped and left no instructions on how to do this. Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't buy any part of it. And um, once you free yourself from that restrictive narrative, you can start seeing what it really is, and you can start seeing how it was really built. Now, I'm not going to get into pyramids. If you want me to get into pyramids, send me a note and say, an episode on pyramids, and I'll be glad to do that. Um, but it's what that does is open the doors to other powers. Now, part of the other powers piece is something that I learned at the same time I went over to um, uh, did my round the world tour. Um, and this was in a cave in at around the 15,000 foot level. an old abandoned temple in the Himalayas. And to make a 4-day story short, um, the thing that I was looking for, like the technique of how you build a pyramid, how you make stones fly, because that's uh, the folk tale of how the pyramids were constructed and how other pyramids were constructed in other places. Um, uh, the response that was given to me was that the ability to do these things are latent within human beings. It rests inside of us. We can activate them whenever we want to. It's not like, you've got to read a particular book. I did say you have to read my book. You have to read Sharif's book. Um, but no, it doesn't say you have to read a particular book or do a particular incantation or anything like that. The only way it can be activated is by all of us together. It will not be activated by an individual. Now, my understanding of that is that when we try to activate it individually, like I'm going to sit here and I've got my phone device here and I'm going to try to levitate that in the air. And I'm trying and I'm straining and I'm doing incantations and I'm burning incense and I'm doing all this other stuff. There's just not enough um, consciousness power here to do that. There needs to be more. And that more is not just two of us going to try it or three of us going to try it, that we actually have the ability to build other systems in order to carry this out. Now, I think that we have evidence for that. Um, and the evidence is how other species, other beings use their uh, the blending of their powers to do things together. And I'm thinking specifically about crows and how um, all these researchers are looking at crows and they're saying they are amazingly smart. They do problem solving. They use tools. They not only are smart, they can use tools in sequence. You have to use tool A before you can use tool B, and they do that they don't miss a beat. And I was watching a video of a crow unlocking a door that had 7 different locks, and you had to do the locks in a particular order. If you broke the order, it would double lock the door. Okay, so the order was really important, and the crow breezes through it. Now, a crow's brain is right about that. Okay, now I'm sorry. That's more like it. Okay. Now, obviously, its problem-solving abilities are not located in this. Okay. Um, that what they are doing is cross-networking with each other. They are amazingly social beings. and their family structures. And by family, I mean families of hundreds of birds in flocks of thousands of birds. Um, those beings are connected, are networked, and the network solves the problems. The network knows. We, human beings, have to network. And I don't mean, oh, we'll go to a meeting, go to a Zoom meeting, and we'll drink our tea or coffee, and we'll talk about things, and we'll all act like solons, like individuals, and then pretend that we're networked. No, we've got to get our hearts, our minds, our gut knowledge in the same room at the same time to do the same task. And let's do the crosstalk between our brains, which is what we're doing right now, and our hearts, which we can't do because there's a screen in front of us, and our guts because we're not in the same room at the same time, where we can see each other, where we can feel each other, where we can connect with each other in powerful ways. Um, so once we do that, um, we did that prior to 12,000 years ago. Many of us are doing that right now. Many human beings still live in tribal groups, in family groups, in um, connected, networked societies. Um, we will learn how to do that very quickly. Okay. What we have to do is figure out how to do this very, very quickly. Um, our this isn't this isn't a interesting pastime. Um, the way that folks back in the 1700s and 1800s used to do seances. Let's just darken the room and we'll get the Swami in and we'll see if we can get in contact with Uncle Edgar. And this is going to be important for our survival as human beings on our planet. Um, and so our tracking our latent powers, looking at how they develop, trying to develop them, trying to connect with them, um, I think is very, very important. Um, so let me spend a minute or so going through very, very briefly what I'm calling the five latent powers. We might have lots and lots of powers. In fact, we may have powers I'm not even tracking right now. I'm not even thinking about. Um, I put a whole section about what are the latent powers and how do you affect them in my book that you can read backwards, Birthing the Nation of Gaia. Um, and if you go to the website, to Commonway's website, you can see um, the the one of the appendices in the back of the book is about the five latent powers, going through very, very briefly. Um, number one is global consciousness and global knowing. We have access to all knowledge, period. Let's put a period on that. Nice big fat period. Um, Lots of different cultures call it lots of different things. The Akashic records, the Emerald tablets of Thoth, um, uh, the unconditioned good. I always like that one. Um, Lots of different ideas of what to call it. Doesn't matter what you call it. It's just that we have access to it. We don't have access as individuals. We do have access as the whole. Um, the um, um, just one example. Um, right now, um, there are thousands of people who call themselves ethnobiologists who are going down into the Amazon rainforest and other places like that, where there are keepers, indigenous people who know the ancient ways, and they're going in and they're saying, um, what are the plants and herbs that cure cancer, a particular type of cancer? And the shaman will tell them because they are connected. We'll say, oh, yeah, you take that plant over there, you put this plant over there, you boil the two together for a couple of hours. Then, after you do that, you put this one on top of it, and yeah, that cures cancer. And so the ethnobiologist writes all that down, takes those plants back to New York or to Colorado or wherever they come from, sequence them in a gene sequencer, separate out the elements of it, patent it, like I own this now, um, charge people literally billions of dollars for that information to get that knowledge that was given to him freely. Shaman didn't charge a thing for it and will act like that's his and he doesn't own one bit of it. Now, what happens when, not if, but when, we don't have to go down to the Amazon for that information. It's sitting right here in my seat. It's sitting right in your seat right now. You just can't access it by yourself. Stop trying, get together with other people, face to face, heart to heart, mind to mind, guts to guts. Don't forget the gut mind, okay? Um, and you then can access this. And I am going so amazingly slow right now. What we're going to do is I'll go through the other four latent powers, and then afterwards, if you want, I can spend another 10 minutes or so um, going through the parts that are not in the book right now. Okay. Um, the so latent power number one, global knowing, global consciousness. If you want to be in conscious with people, be conscious with people in the Kalahari Desert in South Africa, you can do it right now. Um, our technology should be enhancements on that, not the be all end all. We can be connected with um, the Bush people in the Kalahari. We can also be in contact with the crows in your neighborhood. We can also be in contact with all other beings. Uh, Second of our five latent powers are spatial powers. This is really important. People in our early times before all of our technologies, including our technologies of war, started disrupting us. We were able to do things like travel from one area to another um, with no intervening time lapse. I'm here, I'm in point A. I want to go over to that other mountain there. And so I don't start walking, I sit, and then I wind up at point B with no intervening time. I'm looking forward to that one. Um, Navigation, we've talked a lot about the Polynesian navigators able to go to another island that they can't see. They've never been to it. They load only enough food to get them there, only enough water to get them there. They go straight to that island. They don't start bumping around looking for something. And they did that over and over again. Um, by location, able to be in two different places at the same time. Um, the consequences of that are really, really interesting. Um, Object moving and object manipulation, and I'll also add there object cutting to be able to lift, cut, and place the stones of the Great Pyramid, the stones of Göbekli Tepe, the stones of all of the pyramids in Central America, and to do it relatively effortlessly. They did it all in stone because it was so easy to do. Um, the Number three, temporal powers, being able to speed up time, being able to slow down time. Time is amazingly fluid. Now, I don't mean the objective time that gets measured in atomic clocks and looks at, that you measure time by the splitting of a cesium atom, as though you've ever seen a cesium atom. Um, our time, the way that we practice time, it's like a river. It flows, it eddies, it slows down. There are folks who can stop it completely. Um, and there are folks who can look into, from our perspective, a future and see what's actually going on. That's when we're going to be using an awful lot as we develop the abilities to do this. Number four is communication powers, being able to talk with all sorts of beings, not just human beings. Um, and number five, bodily powers. This is the one that's the most studied in our society. Um, the abilities of Buddhist monks, for example, to um, accelerate their heart rate, slow down their heart rate, stop their heart rate without dying, their ability to not eat food for weeks and weeks, not from starvation, but just choosing not to do that, not drink water for weeks and weeks and choosing not to do that. Um, all that is our destiny in terms of our latent powers. What we are going to do right now, though, is put a pause on that. I want to come back and I want to talk about the power of intention and how intention works in things. I said that we were going to continue with talking about the finished talking about the latent powers. I'm uneasy about that. I think it sets a bad precedent for me to kind of go continue with blah blah blah, especially since there were a number of comments that were made. Um, and I want to let's honor the comments over my additional blah blah blah, and then see if we get to the blah blah blah. And I probably should call it something other than blah blah blah. Um, so let's go to the Esther hour then. All of the comments are hers. Um, so Esther says the pyramids are much older than the historical pharaohs who put graffiti on them with their names to claim them as their accomplishments. Yeah, I think that this is well settled for all of us who are not Egyptologists who make our money holding the old narrative. Um, we now know the techniques are much older than the pyramids because you have things like Göbekli Tepe and some of the sites that they're finding now in China with some really, really big stones. Stones that are so big that folks are saying that's not a stone, that's a natural formation. It's like, yeah, sure. Be- uh, Folks say it has to be a natural formation because I can't even conceive of anybody cutting and making a stone that big. Esther also asked about whether or not the technique that is used could be called anti-gravity. I think not. I think we don't understand gravity. I think if we understood it, we don't have to be anti it. We just have to um, turn it down or turn it off for time to time. And Esther, you just unmuted yourself, so you probably want to say something about that.
Yeah, because the revelators say that the mind has the capacity to generate anti-gravity, which is a force that counterbalances gravity.
Mm.
And I don't know much about it, but it is interesting. Makes me curious.
Okay, so I'm going to agree with that our minds, our consciousness, our holonic consciousness has the ability to turn on and off, no, turn on, down, and off this thing that we call gravity. But since we don't understand what gravity is, we can't do it very well. The folks in the past, they knew what it was and they understood it so that they could turn it down and off. The thing I keep saying over and over again as we start looking at the latent powers, is that these folks built with stone because it was so easy. You know, if you look at the stones at places like Sacsayhuaman in South America, which I haven't been to yet. I'm saving my nickels and dimes. I got a special piggy bank for Sacsayhuaman. They were doing things like making flowers or making jaguars on the sides of these monolithic walls. And they're making the jaguars out of 20 or 30 ton stones, cutting them. The flower that I saw was 18 angles for a petal, for one petal. Okay. Now, you wouldn't do that unless it was easy. It just it's easy. Okay. Esther goes on to say, well, just Jesus said, whenever two or more are gathered in his name, he is there also. Um, um, yeah. There's there's the statement that um, once people get together, you can say to a mountain, move, and it'll move from here to there. And that's because where that mountain is not just in this 3D reality. The mountain is also somewhere else, or sometime else, or some state of being else. And by ourselves, we don't have enough brain juice, whatever you want to call it, to even conceive of it. And once we do, we'll understand the purpose of the rest of the universe. It's like the storage compartment for all possibility. Um, and something I do fairly frequently, because I really, there are parts of my writing I really enjoy, and I enjoy reading it more than once. So the last chapters, see which copy I've got here. And I got the Chronicles of the Upheavals. And the last chapters are about what we call unity. And these are the folks who have developed this holonic consciousness to the highest possible degree, where five or six people standing together have one thought and can express themselves in terms of one thought. And they are in contact with all of their other aspects that are existing in other dimensions. Um, oh, shoot. And they're saying to the folks uh, who think like us, we can find this real quick. Um, um, yeah, you really ought to read this section here. Um, about this section. I'm looking at the last two chapters are about the latent powers and what happens when you start exercising them. But one of the things that it does is it's saying that that unity can put you in contact with elements of you that exists in other dimensions, on other planets, etc. Um, and that these other dimensions could be as close to you as possible, with the exception of a change in the pattern on your baby finger. Okay. And they could be so different from you. They said, we can introduce you to um, an element of you that has your name and about your height, but they've got scales, not skin, and they lay eggs. And it's like, I'm sorry, I'm writing this. I'm writing it down. I'm like, holy shit. I can only imagine that. Okay. Um, an element of you that is you, except you're 20 feet tall. Okay. An element of you that is you, but um you are a colony being, and this you've got four bodies. Okay. Um um Fun stuff. And in that, so Unity is saying, oh yeah, we can hook you up with all that. And the folks who are in the let's they call it the ruling council, the culture council, are saying, no, we don't want it. No, thank you, but no, we don't want that. Okay, so Esther says, brains are like radio receivers. Adjutants are mind frequencies. Are you waving?
Um, I gotta go,
Oh,
so I'm bailing. Sorry. I'll see you
yeah.
tomorrow.
Okay. Um, Brains are like radio receivers. Adjutants are mind frequencies that are being broadcast from a planet near the center of our local universe. I'm going to agree with part of that. I think our concept of suns, planets, asteroids, moons can be rethought. And I'm not going to go any further than that. Um, um, when I was 7 or 8 years old, I thought that every sun was the center of an atom, and that we were looking through the body of a really, really, really big being. I'm sorry, really, 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 really big being. And then once I was in school and folks started talking about looking at this sun, looking at this galaxy, etc., I lost that thought. And now I think I'm getting it back. Um, okay, what's the thing called? There's a structure that they just announced in the last month or so that when you look at the universe, um, things aren't evenly spread out. You've got voids where there's nothing there, very little there. And then you've got this thing that's comprised like 10 billion galaxies, and it looks like a line. Um, and actually people have been calling it a spinal cord. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will find my copy and I'll put it in the goodie box. Um, but they said that, okay, so this thing, this line, this cord can't exist. It violates all of that people know about how to form a universe. And I said, okay, because you don't know how to form a universe. You are operating with old software. Um, and um, we know the universe had no beginning. The universe has no end. We're in it. This is it. Um, um, and we need to honor that. It's not, it's beyond our knowing. And folks get really super confident. Oh, yeah, the Big Bang happened 13 point, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, blather, blather. And the bottom line is that it's beyond our knowing, it's beyond being knowable. Um, and okay, so I am this is all really interesting. I'm right on top of all this stuff. Okay. I would like to say one more thing. And then I think maybe all of us need to go. Um, when Angie dumps out, we're all of us have to go. Um, and I want to say something about what I'm calling the power of intention. This is something that actually leaks over into classical and quantum physics. That there is in quantum physics is called the observer principle. Um, that if you do the very tired two-slit experiment and you're aiming the electrons through these double slits, what winds up on the wall, the back wall, is either a particle pattern or a wave pattern. And if it's a particle pattern, you'll see two slits of particles on the back wall. If it's a wave pattern, you'll see multiple slits, and it looks like a wave like a wave went through the two slits, and you have to see an interference pattern there. Now, whether you see a wave or a wave or a particle pattern simply depends on, are you looking? If you're not looking, there's a wave. If you are looking at it, they turn to particles. Okay. So you as an observer influence that. But that's as far as quantum physics goes. They don't go to, what if not only I am an observer, what if I'm an observer with intention? That I want to see something one way or another. Okay. Um, and that gets to be really interesting. Um, so we know about um, um, and my mind is getting occupied by Rupert Sheldrake because I got all these Rupert Sheldrake windows open on my computer screens. And but I'm not thinking about it's not Rupert Sheldrake. It is the guy who wrote the book The Challenge of Chance, and his name is Arthur Kessler. Yay! I'm not as old as they say I am. Arthur Kessler is the one that did the experiments with the random number generator. It just generates a number, and he looks to see whether the number it generates is even or odd. Hook the heat lamp up to the random number generator. So when it generates an even number, the light comes on. If it generates a odd number, the lamp goes off. Sends it through 10,000 cycles. The lamp is on half the time and the lamp goes off half the time. You put a tray of baby chickens in front of that heat lamp, and the heat lamp stays on because the random number generator is generating a string of even numbers, and we don't know how. You take the baby chickens away and it goes back to 50-50. So baby chickens are intentional. Okay. Now they're so intentional it can interfere with the mechanism of a random number generator. Nobody knows what school the baby chickens went to learn how to influence the pattern of numbers that are coming out of this machine. Um, and they can do fertile eggs can do it also. So um, we are going through the world non-intentionally. we from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, we are acting like we are subject to what's happening in the world, not acting as though we are the creators and we are the actors. And so we need to do that. Um, we need to change how we do that. And when I say we, I mean we. Um, how do we find the way to do that? Um, for those of us who read the book like a million years ago, Mutant Message Down Under, really good book. Lots and lots of Joanne wants to know who was the random generator scientist. His, I just said his name and now I can't remember again. Hang on. Arthur Kessler. Kessler is Koestler, something like that. Um, and his work was back in the 1950s, so he was really early on this stuff. There are other people who have been doing similar things. I'll tell you about the Piach experiment, but I will do that if I can find the images for it. Um, okay, so but I was saying something else, and um, since that's gone, let me see if I can um, find the Piach experiment because that is really, really interesting. Um, mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. Mm, 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 mm. I am um I may have found it. Mm, 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 mm. It's a really big file, so I'm going through it. And it's not big enough. Okay, try again. And I'm if I can't find it
How
in
do you spell that?
hmm?
How do you spell it?
It's hard. I'll have to look at it. It's got a apostrophe in the middle of it. Um, mm, 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 mm. Got it. Yay. Okay. Mm, 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 mm. So we might as well start you here since I now have the exact correct spelling of Arthur Kessler's name. Ta-da. Okay. Mm, mm, mm. Okay, so this is how Arthur Kessler um, spelled his name. I will this is one of the many, many books he's written on um um chance and coincidence. Another one that I've read of his is called The Challenge of Chance. But this is Really good stuff. And I talked also a lot about the Sheldrake experiments, especially the dogs that know when their owners are coming home. This is a good book also. Um, um, oh, he talks about parrots and dreams in there, that parrots can not only pick up what you dreamt, but in the morning, they can tell you what you dreamt because they can talk. So if you dreamt about blue balloons, the parrot in the morning will say, blue balloon. And it's like, uh-oh. Be careful what you think about when you're dreaming around your parrot. Um, okay, so this is how you spell piach. Um, and this is the experiment. Um, oh, I don't know whether it's an A or an O. I think it's kind of between an A and an O. Um, okay, so what the experimenter did was have a cage. Um, in the cage are baby chicks just hatched, and he put a red balloon on a randomizer. Okay. Now, what the randomizer does, it's a motor, and the first phase of the motor is it will spin the balloon in any one of 360 degrees of movement, and then it will tell the balloon to move, and the movement will be like move 3 inches, um, and then spin again, and then move again. And so it could just move back and forth. It could move all around the cage. I don't think there are any avoidance things in it, so it could bump against a wall for an hour if it felt like it. Now, as you know, baby chickens bond with the first thing they see moving, um, which is really interesting when you're in Asia and they use ducks to take the insects, the bugs out of their rice paddies. And what they do with the bugs, well, I'm sorry, with the ducks, is wait for them to they're about to hatch. They take them away from the mother, and as the chicks are hatching, they wave a white flag in front of the chicks. Chicks will follow the white flag. So then when the chicks get big, the duck chickling, ducks, um, get big enough, they just pick up that flag and walk it down the street. And there's this line of ducks following these women, and they stick the flag in the middle of the field, and they will just go and graze, as if ducks graze. And then in the evening, they pick the flag up and walk them back to their duck pen. So, so the chicks will bond with this red balloon. So the red balloon on its little stand will go over here, and all the chicks follow it over here. And then the balloon will go over there, and all the chicks will follow it over there. And it'll do this all day long. Then they lock the baby chicks up so that they can see the red balloon, but they can't get to it. Oh, um, so they can't get to it. This is mommy. Um, and then what happens is really interesting. So this is the pattern that happens when the chicks are inside the pen with the red balloon. Can you see my cursor? Okay. Um, so the red balloon on the automatic moving thing goes in this pattern and it's back and forth, it's bouncing off the walls, it's all over the place. That is, I think, the epitome of a random pattern. Now, every time it moves, all the chickens move with it. All the baby chicks move with it. Okay. So they then take all of the chicks and put it that in the cage. This is a glass wall. The chicks can see the red balloon, but the red balloon can also see the chicks. And so they run this again with all the chicks locked up over here. And that's the pattern that the red balloon has when the chicks are locked up over here. The red balloon is trying to get to the chicks, which is means that the red balloon is a lot smarter than you give red balloons credit for. So the red balloon is bouncing up against this wall saying, my babies. And the chicks are saying, mommy, mommy. Um, yes, Esther.
I don't think the balloon knows anything. It's just inanimate energy. However, energy is responsive to consciousness, and the chicks are clearly conscious. And so somehow their consciousness is drawing the balloon to them. I mean, they're not conscious that they're doing it, but obviously their consciousness affects the balloon, the energy of the balloon and
I
its
think
movements.
I think that that is a reasonable reflection of what's going on. But, but I think that you have to be open to the unreasonable parts also, because we just don't know. We don't know. We don't know that the balloon has no consciousness. We don't know that I mean, this is like the pyramid guys saying, well, Khufu had to make the pyramid, and they had to make it at that time. And we can't conceive of it being anything different. I think that what we are learning, what we of the holonic consciousness um, perspective are learning is learn how to be more flexible. Um, learn how to accept the fact that somewhere in the dynamic between a red balloon and that's not a born object, that doesn't have a life cycle. It didn't come out of the red balloon egg. Um, and these chicks are they're doing something. Oops, I guess that was her waving and she had to go. Okay. I've strayed well away from my central theme here. And I still didn't get to say the last. Oh no, I did. There's something about intention. The if you will recall the Rupert Sheldrake's experiments in the dogs that know when their owners are coming home. And people say, "Oh, it's just that the dog has habituated to the sound of the car's motor." And they know that the master comes home around 5 o'clock and they start listening for the motor. So what to test that, what Sheldrake said to people who agree to do this experiment is I want you to leave your office and I want you to drive around the city according to our instructions. And so, um, Rupert's people are saying to that person, turn right at the next corner, turn left at the next corner, go 3 miles, etc. They will instruct that person to drive right by their own front door. Dog sitting on the sofa or playing cards or whatever dogs do when the owners aren't there. And they've got a camera on the dog. They know the dog is not at the front door. So drives right by their own front door, as parks a mile away, and then the instruction is, we want you to intend to go home right now and to go home. And as soon as they say intend to go home, dog pops up off the sofa, goes to the front door and waits. So is something really powerful going on around this power of intention? What happens when we develop the the clarity? It's not a mechanism. All we have to do is be clear that we're intending to do X or Y or Z and watch the results of it. Okay, I think that I may need to do, I've done a couple of I think long videos or short workshops of on this. But I haven't done one in the past few years, and we've learned a lot in the past few years. And then you add that to those of us who have been doing the daily catalyst meditation and the experiences that have been developing out of that. I think that things we're ready to start rocking and rolling. What does rocking and rolling look like? Um, Give you one quick example, and then y'all can keep on going on this call, but I'm hanging up now. So, um, I don't know if you heard of a musician by the name of Sun Ra. Sun Ra was active in the 60s. He literally said that this is a black jazz artist. He literally said he was born on another planet and he named his planet and he um yeah he was out there. So two things. One happened when he was in Paris. The other happened in a concert of by Sun Ra that I went to and I took my daughter to, and we all had the experience. Okay, so Paris first. Um, he wanted to lead a march down what's the big street? The Champs-Élysées. I think I'm pronouncing that or murdering it right. Um, Police said, no, you can't do that. He says, I'm going to do it anyway. Um, and folks were getting nervous about that because confrontation with an American trying to lead a march down a black American in the 50s and 60s. Um, so cops line up. They form up. They got their riot poles ready. He's got 20 or 30 followers with him. He's walking toward them down the street. And as he gets up to the cops, they all lie down and go to sleep. They're not, and he just walks right through them, walks right around them. Within a minute or so, they get back up and say, "What the hell just happened?" Um, that's the Sun Ra effect. Okay, that's what I've heard. I've seen pictures of it, but I didn't experience that. What I experienced with Sun Ra, he came to Camden, was at Rutgers University. I had My daughter was a couple of years old at the time, and they say, bring your kids to the Sun Ra concert. And at a given, he starts the first song. Really, like I said, his music, he called it space music. He's doing space music. And my daughter gets off of my lap and walks up to the stage along with every other kid in the audience, crawls underneath the stage and goes to sleep. And folks are trying to hold on to their kids, and their kids are screaming and kicking, you know. And he says, let them come. They're supposed to be under the stage right now. These kids, I mean, they're playing loud music. All the kids go to sleep and stay asleep for the entire concert underneath the stage. And when he's playing the last song, all these kids just come out from under the stage and they go back to their parents. Now, and as a parent, there's a part of me saying, "Oh, this is an interesting process." As a parent, I'm saying, "Wait a minute, I want my kid." I don't know what's going on under there. I don't know how many cockroaches are under there. I mean, this is Camden. So, so he had this influence, but he was also an amazingly weird character. I mean, like a really, really weird character. Look up Sun Ra and you'll see what I'm talking about. So he was not in a position to talk about what is the effect here? How do we as people develop this effect for the good of all? He developed the effect for the good of Sun Ra, and that was that. So we should be um, all of the people who have a piece of the puzzle need to be playing a game where you have all of your cards face up on top of the table and no one's trying to get an advantage over anybody else. And all of us take all these pieces with our brains and our hearts and our guts and start applying them for the good of all and for the good of the chicks. And the chicks are working for the good of the humans, and everybody's moving in the same, every body and every non-body is moving in the same direction. Okay, I've said enough for a day. Thank you again for coming. Thank you for participating. See all of us next week, or see all of us even tomorrow. Um, we will talk again at another point. My beauty queen wave. See you. Bye.